Hello, this is Watch All About with another watch review, and in this review we're looking at a watch that I've been meaning to get my hands on for a little while, the Cocktail Time by Seiko. Now the Cocktail Time is referring to the Saab 065, which was for the Japanese only market. However, this is the up-to-date Presage SRPB43. So technically it's not really officially the Cocktail Time. However, this new Presage line means that it's available for everyone who's not in the Japanese market, which is good. So as you can see, you open up the box, we get a little certification, the instruction book as well, and then we have the box itself. If I just push all that outer stuff to the side, and then we open it up and we have the watch in question. So we have our cushion, and we also have this little Seiko Presage tag as well in there. Okay, so unboxing process, it's alright, but nothing too special. However, obviously we are all about the watch and the Seiko Presage, with quite possibly one of the most stunning and gorgeous dials in affordable watches. So talking about affordable watches, this RRP's for around £300 or about $300. Again, it's one of those difficult things because you can find great deals online. There's no like official price really, it's just whatever you can get your hands on, but prices do tend to be around the £300 or $300 mark. That depends, you know, if you get it through a retailer or Amazon or anything like that. So 300 quid, what do you get? Well, let me pop on the strap and we will discuss some of the specs. So size wise, we have a very nice and comfortable 40.5mm diameter, a 12mm height, and then a lug to lug length of 47.5mm. So I've got just over a 7-inch wrist. I think 40mm, 41mm seems to be my sweet spot, and I think this fits really nicely. Obviously it is a smart dress watch, so for some 40mm, 40.5mm might be a little bit too big. However, it is certainly big enough to create quite the impression. I mean, it looks really good. Also the slightly oversized crown sort of helps that feeling as well, that you know, for some it might be a little bit too much on the large side. However, I think it is a bit of a design feature. Weight wise, 69 grams, so it is nice and lightweight. It's easy to wear as well. So I think from a size perspective, yeah, I probably was expecting it to be a little bit smaller, in all honesty. It does wear 40.5mm as well, maybe even wears a little bit larger, because of, you know, reasonably long lug to lug length and the big crown. So just keep that in mind if you are you want to be careful of the size of the watch. 5 atmospheres or 50 meters water resistance, so you do have a measure of protection there. However, I wouldn't recommend going swimming with it. Hopefully you would never go swimming with it anyway, but obviously you do, if you do have an accident, you got a little bit of protection. 20mm lug width, so reasonable size lugs, really perfectly suitable for a 40mm diameter case, and you get a 3-year manufacturer's warranty with it as well. So if you do have any issues, then hopefully you are covered for a fair amount of time. So the movement, if I just pop case, the movement is the Seiko 4R35B, which is obviously a Seiko movement. You know, people love Seiko movements. I love Seiko movements as well. Seiko movements are one of those kind of anomalies in the world where people say, I've had my Seiko automatic for 20 years, never serviced it, and it's still ticking away as good as it was on the day I bought it. So I have actually met a couple of people with that exact experience, so they certainly do know their stuff when it comes to building resilient, reliable movements. This is a incredibly accurate as well. This one is coming in at minus 0.2 seconds a day, which is I think pretty absurd, really. Other specs include a 21.6 thousand beats per hour, so that runs at 6 ticks per second, so you get a reasonably nice sweep, but it's not high beat, which is 8 ticks a second. 41 hour power reserve, approximately 23 joules as well. Hacking seconds hand, automatic and hand wind capabilities as well. So really good, decent, reliable movement that is sure to do you for plenty of years to come, as long as you look after it and behave yourself. So that's all the specs discussed. Let's have a look at it in closer detail aspect by aspect before whacking on the macro lens. So starting off with a dial. So this is really what this watch is all about. This beautiful sunray explosion of lines and an explosion of texture as well. It's an absolute beautiful sight, and you know, from every single angle you are getting gorgeous lines, gorgeous reflections as well. Obviously that's the backdrop of the dial, but on top of that you've also got really lovely Dauphine hands which are pitched and polished, and then these sort of, I don't know, sword kind of diamond shape hour markers as well, all superbly pitched, wonderfully finished, and also really deep, decent applied logo as well. On top of that, you've also got a applied border around the date window as well. So an absolute smorgasbord, if you will, of deliciousness on this dial. Also, we've got a very subtle, cheeky little needle seconds hand as well. Really like this cheeky little diamond shape of the counterweight as well. But it's also subtle, but simply done. Print work is fine. We'll have a look at that with the macro lens on in a little bit as well, but really, if you look up close, it's just absolutely flawless, as you would imagine from Seiko, to be honest. But the degree of craftsmanship on a £300, $300 watch is pretty sensational, to be completely honest. From a design point of view, you know, it's relatively simple, to be honest. You know, there's not a lot to it, but they've just wowed everything with that incredible backdrop, which we'll have a look at in closer detail with the macro lens on shortly. Moving on to the case then. So sitting on top of the case is a hardlex crystal. It's domed and boxed, as you can see there. It sits quite high. Some people might be a bit put off by the fact it's hardlex and not sapphire. It doesn't particularly bother me too much as long as you're careful with your watch. I think it produces a beautiful colour and beautiful distortion as well. So I think in this instance, on like a dress watch, I personally wouldn't like a hardlex crystal on a dive watch, because you know you're going to be using that a lot more in day-to-day life. But on a dress watch, where you know you're always going to be pretty careful with it and you're not going to be doing anything too crazy physically, I think hardlex is perfectly fine, and it just produces some really nice clear views. It's excellently clear, and just like at certain angles you get really nice distortion. It just looks really nice in the flesh and the metal. So I think hardlex in this instance is not necessarily a negative. In fact, I think it works really nicely. Now, the case is pretty standard, really. Pretty standard barrel shape, as you can see. It's fully polished as well, so just be careful of any scratches. I've actually just been spoiled a bit with the Seiko Sumo, which has got a really nice shaped case. This is quite standard in comparison. I was sort of hoping for a similar kind of real fancy lines on this case. However, it's fairly straightforward, fairly, I want to say, boring, really. As you can see, there's nothing too outrageous about the case in itself. However, all the lines are perfectly fine, very good finishing, as you would expect, so no complaints in terms of the build quality, really. Now, the crown, very nicely done. As you can see, it's massive as well, which for a sort of smart dress watch, probably unusually large, let's be honest. You'd expect it to be a little bit smaller, especially being that it's automatic and hand wind. If it was hand wind only, I can completely understand a larger, easily manipulative crown. However, on the Seiko, I think visually, when you pay attention to it, it does look on the large side. However, when you're wearing it, it doesn't actually draw attention to itself. I actually quite like it as a feature as well. It's sort of like an onion-shaped crown, but not quite. It's a stubby onion, if you will. The grip is fantastic, really easy to use, and as you can see on the end, we have the if I can get it, we have the Seiko S, nice and deeply, really well engraved on the end of it as well. So really easy to use. Moving on to the case back. Again, much like the rest of the case, very straightforward, very plain really. You've got some information lightly engraved around the outside, which perhaps could be a little bit nicer, deeper in fact. And then we have an exhibition window for the movement. As you can see there, it does a great job in showing off the movement. The movement itself has some really nice brushed bridges, and I really like the gold plated rotor as well. It offers a nice contrast to the stainless steel case and the stainless steel like bridges of the movement as well. It looks really nice in actual fact. If I can just move the rotor down a little bit, see there we have some print work on the rotor as well, which is all nicely done. Moving on to the strap then. So the strap is probably it is definitely my least favorite part of the watch. In fact, I hate it. I'm going to be honest. I hate the patent color of it. It just looks really tacky, I'm not going to lie. The buckle as well is an interesting buckle. However, I've actually switched this buckle around, because if you put it on, at the moment it behaves, because I've switched it around, it behaves like you would expect. So it has the tail end shown at the top here. Now the way it comes is actually the other way around, so that tail end ends up showing up down here, and I find visually that really off-putting, and I really dislike it, hence the reason why I switched it around. However, now that I've switched it around, the Seiko logo is upside down, so that's really frustrating and really annoying. Seiko logo on this top buckle is really lightly engraved as well, so not amazingly done there. I'll be honest, I am just going to swap out the strap. I'm not even going to keep it, because it's that ugly and that frustrating. So yeah, not a great experience with the strap, if I'm completely honest. It just feels a bit rubbish as well. So yeah, there we go. Okay, let's pop the macro lens on then and have a look at it in closer detail. What better place to start than the dial then? So you can see here we have the really deep, nicely applied logo. Polished as well, so it provides beautiful reflection. Moving down, we have these Dauphine hands. You can sort of see the pitch there. Very nicely finished as well, despite, you know, I'm picking up quite a bit of reflection because I'm so close up, but you can see the finishing. The lines are spotless really. And then we just get to have a look at our base of the dial. You can see the lines. The intricacy of this dial is pretty fantastic, and amazingly spotless also. So moving on, we have our hour markers and our date wheel window. You can see they're beautiful, polished and beveled inside, which is sort of like a brushed finish to the date wheel border. And then moving around, we have our hour markers as well. Again, excellently finished. Look at that, spotless in fact. And moving over, we have sort of like these slightly bigger ones, but you can also see the depth of them as well. You can see they're not just like little tiny surface stuck hour markers, but they are proper decent chunky hour markers. Printwork's nice and fine. Got this teeny tiny printwork at the bottom here as well. There we go. And this second hand, you can see it's got a very slight blue splash to it, which is nice. And we have that decent counterweight as well. So moving on to the case, so you can see our heavily domed crystal there, and the case itself fully polished, but you can see we have some nice sharp lines, a little bit of fingerprints on there, so it's pretty easy to get grubby because it is fully polished. However, it is all very nicely, get that in focus, very nicely manufactured, as you can imagine. Flipping it over to the other side, here's the logo on the end of the crown. I'll just give that a very quick wipe. Logo on the other end of the crown, you can see the really thick grip, and also the really deep S on the end as well. Excellently manufactured there, really easy to use as well, and it looks great. You can see there, no, you're not gonna struggle to use that basically. Flipping it over and looking at the case back, you can see here the details are, you know, very lightly engraved, maybe even laser etched, so not too impressive, in all honesty. Flipping it over, we've got a little bit more, got some more information on this side. There we go. Made in Japan. And then if I get inside here, we can have a look at the movement. Nice gold finish to the rotor, and you can see these. Right, get it in focus. You can see the finishing of the movement there. It's all pretty good as well. If I flip it over, you can see the balance wheel ticking away. There you go. Okay, then moving on to the strap then. So the one thing I do like about the strap is it has this very subtle blue stitching, which actually looks quite nice, and it matches the dial really nicely. But that's the only thing I like. Moving on to the buckle, here's the Seiko logo. As you can see there, it is literally just slightly laser etched. Nothing too extravagant about that. Moving on to the side, here's a button on the side to release it, so it is locking at least, and it does feel fairly secure, to be fair. I've not had any issues with it. Okay, there we go. So for £300, do I think the Seiko Presage SRPB43 Cocktail Time is worth it? I think so. I think there's some pretty big negatives, such as the strap. Just bin the strap, get a new nice Hirsch strap, or some other really nice luxurious soft leather strap, and I think it will make it a million times better. You can't deny that this dial is pretty fantastic and pretty stunning. I'm pretty sure some people will probably not like it in terms of its design, but that's fair enough. We all have our opinion, and it just won't appeal to some people. However, if you do like the visual aspect of it, then it is just a beautiful watch. Absolutely incredibly manufactured, absolutely flawless as well, perfect in fact. I haven't found a single issue with the watch itself, apart from the strap. So another thing to keep in mind is, obviously, can you look past the hardlex crystal? I for one think yes. It's not an issue on a dress watch, because it's not as if you're going to be wearing it doing all sorts of physical activities. So I think in this instance, it fits absolutely perfectly as well. So, lovely size, maybe a little bit big for some, so just keep that in mind as well. But the movement is fantastic. The dial is like no other, to be honest. It's one on its own, let's face it, and it's built to such a incredible quality. I absolutely love it, and for £300, it's pretty hard to beat in terms of a unique dress watch, to be honest. So this was the Seiko Presage SRPB43. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and also comment your comments below, and I'll see you next time. See you later. Bye bye.